Welcoming you to Gentle Yoga for the Care of Waldenstroms. We're here with a little bit of a smaller group here today, but from all over the world. We have folks from the UK and Israel, West Coast, East Coast, down south, Northeast, joining us, and in all states of being. Some of us have just been diagnosed, some of us have secondary things going on, some of us have a lot of big life stuff going on. So today's gentle yoga class, I want you to just hear that word gentle and take that into your practice today. This class is for folks who feel comfortable getting down onto the floor. I want to share the template of our class just to give you a little roadmap. We're going to be starting in a seated posture, but I'll show you how to get down onto the floor safely if you need that. We'll move to a reclining posture and get really nice and gently warmed up. We'll be on our hands and knees for a small amount of time, and then we'll stand up. We'll do some standing poses, and we'll wind down with some seated and reclining poses and a really healthy rest pose at the end. So for our practice today, some things you might need will be a yoga mat. Of course, maybe you don't have one. You can probably still do this, just being safe. We need a chair if you need support for balance poses or help getting down onto the floor, back up from the floor. I like to have a pillow, a blanket, things for that final pose at the end. They're going to help me support, stay supported. A strap is great if you have it, or anything you can use as a strap, like a tie or a dog leash. And we won't be doing too much with that strap, so it's not the end of the world if you don't have anything nearby. And then, of course, water. So we're going to be hydrating during our class. So go ahead, feel free to go grab those things if you don't have them. And we'll come get settled in our first pose, our seated pose. So I'm just going to share with you my favorite way of getting down onto the floor safely. Got a piece of furniture nearby, and I'm going to very carefully just kind of lean forward, rest my hands. Notice I have a flat back as I do this, so I'm not rounding my back. And I'm going to bring my good knee down first. Maybe you have a good knee and a bad knee. And then I'm going to come to sit on the earth. So finding your seated posture. It might take a little while to settle into a seated posture. Sometimes this is actually one of the more difficult postures that we have in our yoga poses. So I invite you to use any props that might help you. For example, sitting up onto the edge of a block to lift hips higher than the knees. We're not going to be here long, but it's really good to develop these habits as we want to be working towards more time spent in a meditation pose. That's really, we're moving towards that as a goal for our journey towards ourselves. So options to also see Gordon has his legs tucked underneath him. And Gordon, you might even use 2 blocks if that angle of the knees feels awkward. Right? So I'm sitting up onto 2 blocks, and you can see the blocks are just right underneath my hips, and I have a nice tall spine. And that's a really nice way to feel supported. So you're finding your resting pose or your seated pose, and we'll get started with a little bit of breath work, and I'll share with you the tones of my Shruti box. Just beginning by closing the eyes if that would feel comfortable. Noticing the shoulders, perhaps letting them relax and soften a little bit. And together we'll take some easeful breaths, breathing in through the nose, out through the nose or mouth. In through the nose, out through the nose or mouth, following that out breath. of our concepts in yoga, one of the niyamas of yoga, is something that loosely translates to surrendering to the divine. We're going to work with that concept today a little bit, Ishvara Pranidhana. So I'm going to focus on my out-breath and letting my out-breath all the way out. And I'm going to do so by humming. So we'll do bee's breath together here, breathing in through the nose, and as you exhale, mouth closed, a little humming sound. Just feeling that vibration in your body. For 2 more breaths. Very good. It's a nice way to start, just creating a little bit of vibration, a little bit of sound. And I'm going to invite you now to move onto your back. I have a blanket, maybe I didn't mention that before, but I do have a blanket that I can use to create a little bit of support underneath my head. So I'm going to lie back with my knees bent. I've got that support underneath my head. And everything that you'll hear me say today is just a suggestion. If there's something else you would rather do, including skipping what we're doing, that's completely fine. So I've got my knees bent and my hands are resting on my belly. And I'm going to take some breaths here. I could close my eyes if that would feel comfortable for me. I'm breathing in, breathing out, letting myself sink into the support below. As I breathe in, I might feel my belly rise and fall. So taking a few easy belly breaths here. You got it. Letting the shoulders relax. There's always some effort in my shoulders and neck. I'm always having to remind myself to let go of that effort in the arms and the shoulders. And my mind is focusing on my belly here, and I'm just seeing if I could explore that belly filling up like a balloon and letting go and following that out breath all the way out. For one more. Just allowing yourself to be here today in whatever state of being you're in. I'm going to walk my feet out a little bit wider. So my knees are still bent and my feet are towards the edges of my mat. And my arms can now drape out to the sides if that would feel good. And very gently, again, this is called gentle yoga, I'm going to wash my knees from side to side. So our windshield wipers, wonderful way to just loosen up a part of the body we tend to hold tension. That's the hip flexors and the low back. And as I'm doing this, I'm just breathing easy breaths. Moving the knees from side to side at whatever pace feels right for me. And then I'll come back to center, walk my feet back a little bit closer to each other. It's going to hug my knees into my chest. And I might feel comfortable rocking from side to side a little bit, massaging the lower back. And then I'll keep my right leg in, and I'll either bring my left foot to the earth or I'll press my left leg long, leg resting on the earth. I'm pushing my foot up towards the ceiling and circling my ankle. Maybe my leg is straight, maybe it isn't. So I've got my hands on the back of my thigh, my right thigh, and I'm getting a nice hamstring stretch here as well as circling my ankle. It feels so good. And I might just cross the midline a little bit. So I'm stretching that IT band, breathing into this stretch, my right leg moving to the left. And then we'll come back to center, just a brief foray and that leg stretch, and switch sides. I've got my left leg hugged in. I'm pressing my right leg long or keeping the floor on the earth with the knee bent. And I'll stay here for a moment. We always start with the right side in yoga because this is the way that digestion moves from right to left. And this is what my teacher taught me. I asked the question, why? Why do we always start on the right side? And that was his answer. And it makes sense to me. So I'll push my foot up towards the ceiling, grabbing onto the back of my left leg, circling that toe, circling that ankle, finding my breath. Maybe I would feel okay crossing the midline, moving that leg to the right just a little bit, taking a big breath. All the way out, coming back to center. And then I'll return to hugging both knees in. And I might feel comfortable kind of rocking myself up to sit. Rocking myself up to sit. And slowly and carefully moving forward onto my hands and knees. So moving onto my hands and knees, if I have tender knees, I might pad up under my knees. If I have tender wrists, I might point my fingertips out to the sides, right? Or grab onto my blocks if I have blocks. And I'm just going to start circling my whole body. So making these little circles. Gentle circles, moving in one direction. Then I can feel the joints becoming lubricated in my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders. I might move the other direction and I can notice my hips are being lubricated by this motion, even my knees. Then I'll come back to what feels like neutral for me. And I'm going to pull my belly up towards my spine and maybe tuck my chin a little bit. I'm avoiding rounding my back aggressively if I have osteoporosis. If you're somebody who's clear to do so, you could round the back as in the cat shape. And moving to the cow shape, I'm going to do that pelvic tilt. I'm arching my back, maybe lifting my chin a little bit. And I'm just moving back and forth between these two shapes, either a neutral or a rounded back and an arched back. And you can really feel the pelvis is kind of the beginning of this movement. We're breathing in and out and going at whatever pace feels good. Maybe one more breath here. Got it. I'm going to sit, tuck my toes under and walk my fingertips back if this feels okay for your knees. I'm getting a really big toe stretch, so feel free to lean more forward if it feels too intense. I've got my fingertips plugged into the earth, and I'm going to take a few lion's breaths with my mouth wide open and my tongue sticking out, creating a little ha sound. What can I let go of here? And one more. Really nice, guys. Crawling back forward onto my hands and knees. I'm going to stretch my right leg long with the toe on the earth. And I'm just going to rock forward and rock back. So I'm getting a toe stretch. I'm stretching my calf, my shin. And I'm starting a little bit of my balance work. Here, I'm going to pick up my right heel. Maybe it's at about hip level. And I'm going to spider walk my left fingers forward. And I might stay with my fingertips on the earth, or I might stretch my left arm forward, pulling that belly up towards the spine. A big breath. And I'm exhaling, grounding down through the knee and the hand. Other side, left leg long, toe on the earth. Rock forward, rock back. And then lifting that left heel up, integrating the core, and walking those right fingertips forward. Maybe they stay down, maybe you can extend. Release down. And if you feel good doing this, you could try flowing a little bit. Arm, opposite leg extending. You go at your own pace. Maybe you just do the legs, maybe you just do the arms. I'm keeping my chin tucked to protect my neck, and I'm gazing at the top of my head. My mind is also at the center, at the core. This is where I'm really doing the most work to keep everything stabilized. And I might take one more on each side. Very good. Now I would love to show you a really wonderful rest pose. So I'm going to come, you can either do a child's pose if that's something you love, or I'm going to come down all the way onto my belly. All the way onto my belly, and I'm going to create a pillow for my head with my forearms. I'm going to let my forehead rest on that pillow, and then I'll bring my toes to point out to the sides. If this doesn't feel good for you for whatever reason, please change it up. So here I am in crocodile pose, Makarasana. And what I'm exploring is the feedback of the floor. As I breathe in, I can push my belly into the earth, and then I can follow the out breath all the way out, letting go of effort in my shoulders. Breathing in, and as I exhale, letting go of effort through my arms, my hips, my legs. I've got my forearms underneath my head, and I'm letting my head rest here. So I'm not doing any work. I've got my head just completely resting on the earth. If it would feel better to rest a cheek, that's also an option. And this is a wonderful pose you can do at the end of a day or when you feel overwhelmed. Sometimes I call it the face plant pose, literally just coming to rest and drawing up some nourishment from the earth, the grounded earth energy. And this might be where you want to stay for the rest of our class. That would be completely fine by me. If you're ready to move out of this pose, we're going to gently come up out of this pose, back onto hands and knees. Maybe you feel comfortable balancing both knees and taking your fist to your low back, rubbing up and down along the spine. Maybe a little bit of an arch to the back, if that would feel okay. And if you don't feel comfortable balancing on the knees, you can skip this one. All right, now I'm going to move towards a standing posture, but I'm going to walk myself towards my piece of furniture and just step 1 foot forward and come to stand. So that's my transition to a standing posture. A good time to take a sip of water. And thank you so much for your patience with sound issues. So I'm coming to stand with a little bit of a wider stance. I'm going to take my hands to my hips and just begin to circle my hips in one direction. The feet are anchored down and my breath is moving. We were doing this in our Tai Chi class last week, and we did it for a full 3 minutes. Coming back the other direction, we won't do it for 3 minutes today. We have a lot of other things I want to get to. But our Tai Chi teacher, this is a very good warm-up pose, explains it's a good warm-up pose and also to get the energy flowing. And also because, some of our theming is around surrendering and letting go and just going with the flow. Working with the hips can be a wonderful way to do that. All right, from here, I'm going to bring my arms down at my sides, and I'm just going to turn my torso to the left and right and let my arms swing. And they can maybe hit on my body somewhere or not. Either one is fine. And I'm going to keep my gaze turned straight ahead. So my head's not going with me, so I get a little bit of a neck stretch. So I'm gazing at my camera here while my arms do the swinging. And this could be great if you have upper body tension. And again, I feel that sort of letting go aspect in my hands and my forearms. Kind of letting the movement of my upper body do the work, and my arms are just kind of along for the ride. All right. Coming back nice and slow and just coming back to neutral. Let's go ahead and widen out that stance even more. And I'm going to stretch my right arm up and over, so side bending. And my left arm is going to be really loose and dangly. So I'm really creating space in that left shoulder. And reaching for the ceiling with the fingertips of the right hand. So not so much about a bend as it is about an extending. My legs are straight and strong here. Coming back the other direction, left arm lifting. That right arm is relaxed. Reaching those fingertips up. And then you can move from side to side. Go however far feels good to you. If you have shoulder issues, you can have the hand on the hip instead. You do not have to lift the arm all the way up. Breathing. And many of us with Wallenstroms, you tell me that you experience recurring infections, and this may or may not be something that happens to you. And some of you experience those recurring infections as respiratory infections. So this side bending can be wonderful for keeping those muscles between the ribs supple. These muscles are responsible for 25% of your respiratory effort. Important to take good care of them as you do your diaphragm, the muscle, main muscle for breathing. So I'm taking one more on each side. All right. And then I'm just going to cross and uncross my arms across my chest, scissoring my arms back and forth, opposite arm on top. Each time I'm switching which arm is on top. So Gordon, I'm thinking of you for this one. I'm talking about upper body stress and tightness. So just scissoring the arms in front of you and kind of letting go of some of that tension. And then I'm going to find my strap. So taking hold of my strap or something I can use as a strap, doesn't really matter what it is. It could even be a scarf. And I'm going to take this strap behind my back with the arms at about shoulder distance apart. So do what feels comfortable for you. Maybe you have a stretchy band, and that's okay. Though when we get into our leg stretches later, I prefer you don't use the stretchy band. So I'm just going to be lifting my strap up away from my body and coming back down. I'm breathing in, lifting up, coming back down. Easy breaths here. Right, and even if you don't have a strap, you can feel the shoulder blades squeezing together and working as you do this. Many of us develop a lot of tension in that upper back, and we sort of turn off those muscles alongside of the upper spine and round forward. And so this can help us sort of undo some of that rounded posture, turning on those muscles. So I'm squeezing 1 or 2 more times. All right, and then I'm coming back to my wide stance, and I'll use my strap again, lifting the strap above the head, or maybe the arms above the head, kind of a V for victory shape here. And I'm just moving from side to side again. So I feel a little bit more kind of resistance here. Legs are strong. 1 more on each side. You've got it. Very nice, Nancy. And I'll just release my strap down and come to stand on my mat, maybe circling my wrists a few times. Finding a standing posture with the feet about hips distance apart, or whatever feels most stable for you. So I'm coming up. Now I might want my chair or some support nearby. I'm going to come up onto my tiptoes and release down. And the first sort of foray into exploring balance could be wobbly, and that's fine. I might lift my arms out to the sides and float my arms back down. I'm breathing in and softly landing. Many of you talk about having peripheral neuropathy in the toes, the feet, the lower limbs. And so we want to strengthen this part of the body. We want to do everything we can possibly do to support health and well-being in the areas where we experience peripheral neuropathy. It's not going to change the health of the nerve, but it's going to help all the surrounding muscle and soft tissue. So that is something you can do to support health and well-being in your lower limbs if you experience peripheral neuropathy. But it's also just a great balance challenge to keep you maintaining good balance. All right, I'm going to float my way back down, and I'm going to sink down into my imaginary chair here. So I'm bending my knees, my hips are back. I'm pulling my belly towards my spine, and I'm going to do some chair pulses. So I've got my arms down at my sides, squeezing my shoulder blades together. I'm inhaling, lifting, straightening. Exhaling, sinking back down, so strong. Turn on those glute muscles. Good. Inhale, lift. Maybe the arms lift all the way up. Exhale, sink down. Maybe the arms come back behind you and you squeeze the shoulder blades. Moving at your own pace, breathing in, breathing out. We'll do 2 more. And last one. And coming up to stand, I'm going to step my right foot forward and my left foot back at an angle, a slight angle. My hips are still pointing back and bend into my right knee. If you feel wobbly here, just walk that right foot to the right for a wider base. And if the hip is really turned back, see if you could aim your toes a little more to the top of the mat. And then from here, I'm going to lift my arms overhead, straighten my front knee, and as I bring my hands to heart center, I'm going to bend into my right knee. So warrior one, flow. Breathing in, lifting arms, straightening the leg. Exhale, sinking down. Going with my flow here, inhaling, exhaling. That's not the monitor, that's farther away. And I can do maybe 2 more of these. Ending with the hands in heart center and just a moment longer in my strength. You could squeeze that left glute muscle, belly. And then we're releasing out of it, hands on the hips, shortening the stance, both legs are straight. I still have my right leg forward. And really minding what's happening with my neck and my chin here, because I tend to lead with my chin. I'm going to tuck my chin back and lead with my heart as I fold forward. It's also just a personality-wise, leading with my heart. So both legs are strong. I'm lifting both kneecaps. And I've got a flat back here, so I'm not rounding my spine. You might like to bring that right arm down the right leg a little bit, but I'm retaining that nice flat back. And I'm feeling my breath moving in and out, going as far down as feels safe to me in my pyramid pose. One more breath. And we're coming up out of it nice and slow. And I'm just going to step my left leg up, swing my arms up, and step back. So I'm stepping up, leg lift, arms lift, step back. So just a little bit of balance fun. Lifting up, stepping back. And maybe do 1 more of those. And then we'll step that left foot forward. And bring that right foot back. Do all of that on the other side. So I've got a bend to my left knee, my right leg is back, a little bit angled. And I'm going to reach for the stars here, arms rising up. Exhale, sink down, hands to heart center. Warrior one, flow. Breathing in, breathing out. You could do this at your own pace. Maybe you straighten that front knee, maybe you don't. Stabilizing that right hip by squeezing the right glute muscle. And maybe we go ahead and stay here with the arms, the hands at heart center for a few breaths and just soften the gaze. Surrender to this shape that the body is in. And slowly releasing out of it. Hands to my hips. I'm straightening my legs. Both legs straight, left foot still forward. And I'm going to tuck my chin and let my heart lead the way. It's almost like I'm pointing my heart towards my left big toe with a flat back, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Got it, looking good. And then if you want to fold further or deeper, perhaps you let the hands stretch down the left leg. I'm still keeping that flat back and that tucked chin, and I'm not going to push through pain or discomfort. I could even have a little slight bend to that left knee. Good. Come on up, nice and slow. I'm going to have some fun here, swinging my arms and stepping that right leg forward and stepping it back. Lifting it up, maybe I wobble, that's okay. Stepping it back. And we'll do 2 more. Energy flowing. All right. And then maybe we walk it out a little bit. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Take a sip of water if you need it. And we're going to get into our tree poses next. All right. having a chair nearby for support for your tree pose. And if tree pose doesn't suit you, you could do flamingo pose, just standing on one leg. So today with my tree pose, I'm going to start with a little bendy bounce to both knees. I'm going to pour my weight over into my right foot, right leg, pick up my left heel and just open that left knee out to the side. I'm zipping everything up and bringing my hands to heart center. This might be my tree pose right here, and I could hold on to a chair the whole time if I need it. I'm working towards bringing that left foot up onto my right calf, even if it's just for a millisecond. And I want to find that edge, that place where I wobble out of it. This is where I will improve, I'll make my gain. Squeeze that right glute muscle, use the core muscles to get a little taller. One more breath. Good, and then we're kicking out that right leg, juicing up the right knee, maybe snapping the fingers, making sure we're not taking ourselves too seriously. And then we'll switch it up with the weight coming into that left knee, little bendy bounce. Right heel, opening that. And everything zips up. So I'm not off kilter here. I'm zipping up and I'm working towards finding my tree pose. The foot can be on the calf, it could be on the inner thigh, anywhere but the knee. And it's not a big deal to have the foot on the knee for 1 or 2 times, but this isn't something we want to get into the habit of because it can put pressure on that joint. This side could feel vastly different. So I'm sort of surrendering to that. I'm surrendering to my wobble. Finding my one more big breath. You got it, Sarah. Beautiful. And then I'm kicking it out. Kicking out that left knee, snapping my fingers. And then we'll come to a wide stance. Just a reminder, this class is an hour long, but we will have time for a nice, good Shavasana pose at the end. So let's do a couple more standing poses. I might want to come back to that little hip circle. And we're going to get into our Warrior 2 series. So I'll go ahead and angle my right toes to the right and my left toes in a little bit. And I'm sinking into that right knee, and my torso is pointed towards you. So the difference really between Warrior 1 and Warrior 2 is where our hips are pointing. This is an externally rotated, open for the hips posture. And this can be a little awkward for some of us if we have hip issues. So please shorten the stance if that feels awkward or if you want to stabilize in some way. And I'm taking a peek down at my right knee. Is it crumbling in? I want to kind of make sure that I feel stable there. And then I'll float my wings out to the sides. I'm going to reach forward and back a few times, just kind of find what feels like a stable middle sweet spot. I'll turn my gaze over my right fingers and just hang out in my Warrior for a moment. My Warrior 2, where can I soften? Finding my breath. You got it, peeking over those right fingers. And let's go ahead and flip the right hands and begin to reverse the Warrior. So I'm straightening my right knee, that right arm is coming up, and my left arm is coming back. And I'll flow right back to Warrior 2. So I can flow in and out of this a few times, breathing in, reversing. It's beautiful, breathing out, sinking down. And one more, Warrior, reverse Warrior, and Warrior 2. And now I'm going to bring my right hand down onto my right thigh or knee, and that left arm is just going to come onto the hip. I'm going to slowly lean a little bit towards that right side. So I'm getting an extension on that left side of my body. And if it felt comfortable and safe, you could lift that left arm up. So I'm working towards my extended side angle pose. Right? Maybe you have farther to travel. right? And you can bring the forearm down onto the thigh, but maybe you want to stay lifted today. One more breath. Got it, Allison. Beautiful. Coming back up. I'm going to bring my hands to heart center and all 10 toes towards you. And I'm just going to take a bow, coming down. Maybe my hands come down to my legs, flat back. Maybe you have a little bit of a bend to the knees if you have really tight hamstrings. Maybe you can touch the arms towards the floor and let go of holding the head. If that doesn't feel safe for you, if you're caring for glaucoma or vertigo, you can keep the head lifted. That's good, Gordon. Just letting those arms swing looks really good. Back up nice and slow. And we'll take those left toes to the left, angle the right foot in, and sink into that left knee. And again, my torso, my hips are pointing towards you. And I'm finding an alignment that feels really stable for me as I stretch my wings. So I'm bending into that left knee and maybe reaching forward and back a little bit, finding that sweet spot. So I remember that it's not about just this left arm reaching forward. I have a right arm reaching back as well. Hugging all those muscles along the bones and the hips and the legs. Turning my gaze over that left finger. Softening where I can soften. Oh yeah, those shoulders can always use a little softening. Right? And then we'll flip the left hand. Inhale, reverse the warrior, straightening that front knee. And sinking down into the warrior two again. Breathing in, reverse the warrior. Breathing out, warrior two, nice and strong. And we'll do one more. Reverse. Warrior two. And then I'll bring my left hand on my left knee and right hand on my hip. And I'm just leaning over to this left side and feeling this big stretch in my right side body. Optionally, I could bring my right arm up and over, or I could lean my left forearm onto my thigh, but I'm not going to force this. I'm not going to push through pain or discomfort. I'm just going to find what feels good to me. And then I'm coming back up. And let's go ahead and just walk it out a little bit. And with a slightly wide stance, but not as wide as warrior. Side to side. And I'm going to let all those worries, concerns for what is coming or what has been just slide off the ends of my fingers. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. All right, guys. Now we're going to transition to the floor. Maybe you want to take a sip of water on the way. And transitioning to the floor in a way that feels safe for you. Just a reminder, I could lean forward, my hand on a piece of furniture, and drop my good knee down. Come to sit however feels good. And today I'm going to start with a little bit of a wider stance, or I'm going to bring my legs out to the sides. And this can be kind of uncomfortable for us. If that's you, I want you to support yourself by bringing the hands underneath the shoulders. We're working towards feeling a little stretch in the inner thigh, and I might just lean my chest forward a little bit if I have the room to do so. I'm going to engage my legs by lifting my heels up off the earth. So I really feel strong through my legs, and then I'm going to let that go. Very good, Ginger. Coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Very, very slowly. I'm not rounding my back. But my legs are somewhat engaged here as I do this. If you have a lot of room to travel, Now might be a time to kind of use some blocks. And this might be something you're working towards, being in a wide-legged forward fold with some stuff under the chin or chest that allows you to just hang out there. Right? And maybe you're not there, and that's fine. You can bring the hands behind the shoulders. See if you could take just 3 breaths here. And every exhalation, you're letting go of a little bit more effort through the arms. You're letting gravity do the work. Slowly walk yourself up. That's a big stretch. I'm going to bring the soles of my feet together. Maybe the knees. I'm going to take some butterfly flaps here, just kind of loosening the hips. You got it. And then I will go ahead and get ready for some reclining postures. And again, we're going to be moving towards the Shavasana. So if you want to grab a blanket, pillow, anything you might need for that. Coming to lie on the back, we're going to do two little stretches, and then we'll come to our resting pose. So I've got my knees bent to start. And I'm going to cross my right ankle over my left knee. And this might be enough sensation for you in the right hip. You might want to come up onto the left tiptoe, or you can hug the knee in towards the chest. So we're looking to get a stretch in the outer right hip, right glute muscle, piriformis muscle. Hugging the knee in. And then softening the foot down onto the earth and crossing the right knee all the way over the left. So I still have my right leg on top of the left. My knees are nestling. So bring that right knee over the left. And I'm bringing both knees to the left side as my right arm reaches to the right. And I'm doing a really gentle twist here. So if this feels like too intense for you, you can uncross the legs and the knees can just be together. Beginning to let go of the doing part of my practice. I can invite ease into my upper body, into my hips. Letting go of doing. One or two more easeful breaths. That's good, Ginger, taking care of what feels best. And we'll slowly come back out of this, unwinding back to center, both feet on the earth. Between sides, I'd like to do a couple pelvic tilts. So I'm pushing the belly button down towards the earth, erasing the lumbar curve, and then I'm accentuating the lumbar curve, as if I could slide my hand underneath my lumbar spine. So there's a little bit of room there, and I'm just going back and forth, taking care of myself today. So we have evidence, research studies that show that practicing yoga before, during, and after treatment are all appropriate and beneficial for our practitioners. And the studies are not specifically with Waldenstrom's. Some are with lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Most of the studies are more prevalent cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer. But if you're somebody who has not had treatment yet, and you know you're going to be having treatment, we have a word for this stage. It's called prehabilitation. And it's a wonderful thing you can do to get yourself ready for that. So let's cross that left ankle over the right knee and take the hip stretch on the other side. I'm just grabbing onto the back of that right thigh, the hands reaching through the window of the legs. Side could feel different. That's very good. I see some nice softening of shoulders happening out there. And breath work. When you're ready to come out of this, planting that right foot down, nestling the left knee on top of the right, and both knees draping to the right side while we open the left arm to the left. Just letting yourself be a body lying on the earth. Maybe my gaze is to the left, maybe it's straight up, whatever feels good to you. Very good. Come on back to center. And one last time, we'll hug the knees into the chest. And then I'm looking to create the most, well, you could do any movements the body's asking, of course, before we move into our final pose. Any other movements where you might like, lifting the legs up towards the ceiling, maybe opening the legs, whatever feels good. Maybe some more windshield wipers could feel good. Maybe you'd like to do a bridge pose. But then I'm looking towards finding my most comfortable pose, my Shavasana. And I've gathered a pillow underneath my knees. And this can help kind of allay tension in the lower back by having a support under the knees. Maybe it's a blanket, maybe it's your blocks. A little something underneath the head. Coming into this resting shape. And just further letting go. I brought my singing bowls today, so I hope you can hear them okay. As I breathe in, moving my mind to my neck and shoulders, and on the out breath, I'm just letting go of effort. Breathing in, exhaling all the effort from the neck and the shoulders. Breathing in, letting go of effort through the arms, down to the fingertips. Just doing nothing. Doing nothing is doing something. Moving my mind to my spine and my back. I could take a breath in, and on my exhale, slowly ease effort from that part of the body. No work, nowhere to be. Moving my mind to my hips, be like a receding wave going back into the ocean. As I breathe in, the wave breaks. As I breathe out, slowly that wave goes back into the ocean. It could feel really good to stay where you are. But if you're ready to begin to move out of your Shavasana, you can begin to wiggle the fingers and toes. Maybe you stretch the arms overhead and come to that seated posture. We'll close our class today with an Om and 3 Shantis. Shanti means peace. You could listen or join in from your ends. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And thanking you so much for your practice today, friends. Namaste.